Welcome to the Real Estate Explainer podcast, where we talk about anything and everything real estate. I'm your host, Brian Kixula. Take notes. Today, Tony Javier is going to be talking about using TV commercials to take your real estate investing career to the next level. Hey, Tony, just wanted to say thanks for jumping on the podcast. I am definitely excited to have you on today. Really just to cover marketing in real estate, specifically when it comes to generating inbound leads. I think so much of, so many of the clients that I talk to, they're definitely focused on, let's say, outbound marketing. They're dialing for clients. They're going to open houses. They're doing door knocking, really anything that they can do to generate, whether it's a retail transaction where they're working as the real estate agent and helping them buy or sell houses, or as wholesale agents where they're going in and looking for off-market deals. And I think that where your expertise really comes in is generating those inbound leads, so you can really focus on what you do so well, which is, sell properties. If you could talk a little bit about, the different, let's say, opportunities that you offer.
Yeah, so there is a big difference between inbound leads and outbound leads, right? So I'll explain that for the audience in case they don't understand that. So outbound leads is what a lot of people do, especially when they're new in the business. That's what I did when I first started. Back when I started in 2001, I would go through the newspaper, call agents, call listing of investors that had properties. So I was reaching out to people to get them to sell to me, right? Now today, outbound channels are door knocking, driving for dollars, texting, cold calling. Again, things where you're reaching out to people and saying, "Are you looking to sell your property?" Those are good things to start with, but the problem with those is that, number one, they take a lot of time. If you do outbound channels, you have to find someone that's looking to sell. Then you have to warm them up to get them to trust you. And then you have to negotiate with them. And then again, that's another trust factor. And there's a big, long process of, getting outbound leads to sell to you on top.
So you're really building that trust up front just so you can ask for the business. So it's
100%. Yeah, because you've probably in text before, you've been called before, like someone trying to buy one of your properties or your house. I think almost everybody that's listening to this has probably received one of those, unless they're lucky enough they haven't been on anybody's list before. So 100%. So when someone texts you or someone, calls you, you don't know who they are. So you're like, who are you? Are you credible? Are you scamming me? I mean, there's this whole process of getting people to even let you come look at their house or even give you an offer. And some of those people just say they want to sell or give me an offer when really they either don't want to sell, or you have to give them like way above what their house is really worth for them to actually sell. So they're just kind of kicking tires.
And it really is that stranger danger thing when people are knocking on your front door, they're calling you. You didn't ask them to call you. They're texting you. You didn't ask them to text you. So you're right. It's, it's that stranger danger. You're building that credibility up front.
Yep, 100%. And then if you turn that around and you look at inbound channels, you're putting things out there. It's kind of like throwing a lure out and having them, bite and then hooking them in, right? So inbound channels, the two main channels that we do for inbound are TV and radio. So when you do inbound marketing, you've already built that credibility with them. They're calling you saying, "I've seen your information. I trust you enough that I think that you're legit and that you're going to give me a good enough offer. And then if you give me an offer that you're going to close, so I am going to ask you to do business with me." That's a lot easier than the other way around, right? So when you're doing inbound marketing, you don't have to spend nearly as much time giving that credibility, right? They're usually trusting you off the bat because they're actually calling you saying, "Give me an offer on my house." They're usually not tire kickers because, again, they're taking the energy and time to go find you somehow, whether it's watching TV or going online or whatever, however they, go in and find you. and you don't have to go through near as many leads. So I'll give you statistics. Or some statistics. It takes anywhere from 50 to 100 outbound leads. So reaching out, someone says, I want to sell my house. It takes 50 to 100 people that raise their hand that say, I want to sell my house to buy one deal. Whereas with inbound marketing, it's typically one in every 5 to 10 leads.
And I think with that is you've probably contacted 1,000 people to get those folks to raise their hand and say, I would like to sell my house.
Exactly. And gone through a lot of no's of take me off your list. I'm going to sue you. Who are you? Screw off, hang ups, all that kind of stuff. Absolutely. 100%. So much more time and effort involved. The other benefits of inbound channels like TV commercials, which is what we've been doing for the last 12 years for our business, and we help a lot of people do now. And TV commercials just, they have the credibility factor. Again, people just trust you when you're on TV. I noticed when I got on TV 12 years ago, the conversations were way different. They were way different with realtors. They were way different with contractors, private money lenders. When we're raising money and we get a referral from someone in our local market, the first thing they say is, oh yeah, I've seen your guys' commercial on TV. And the conversation is so much lighter and easier than if we're having conversation with someone in another market that has no idea who we are, right?
So they know, like, and trust you based on the presence that you've had in their local markets.
Exactly, 100%. So that's one of the biggest advantages is just having that credibility. The return on investment, that's what everybody wants, right? Is how much money do I put out and how much money do I get back? So while the cost per lead and, there are some other metrics that are more expensive for TV, I'll skip to the third one, which is return on time. So not only is the return on investment good, it may not be quite as good as some of the really cheap channels, but those cheap channels, once you factor in your time and all of that, may sway your decision. But to me, return on time, like I've been in this business for 23 years now. I not only look at how much money do I have to put out to get results back, but how much time and energy do I have to put out to get something in return. So with TV commercials, once you set those up right, or radio and other inbound channels, it performs. You don't have to manage it so much. So like, for instance, when I did my first commercial in 2012, I ran that same commercial for a year to year and a half before I even touched it. We have clients that are 2 years, I think even 3 years in from their first commercial, and they're still airing the exact same commercial because it was set up right, it was scripted correctly, and it still produces.
So it's an evergreen marketing system that you're using, and it really does, hold the test or stand the test of time. And I think one of the things that, you've said a couple of times, and I don't think we mentioned earlier, is that you're not necessarily just a marketing guy. Your primary role isn't just bringing in clients to your TV advertising business. You're an active real estate investor. This is what you do as a full-time job, in addition to creating, this opportunity for other professionals. And I think that that's so key, because a lot of times in our world, we get pulled into guys that are selling postcard services, and they're sales guys for the postcard services. They don't sell real estate. They're not dentists. They're not whatever they're selling postcards for. Same thing with your pay-per-click advertising guys. They're just pay-per-click advertising. I think what makes you so unique and sets you apart is you're actively involved in the real estate business. It's what you do. So sorry to kind of cut you off and go on a tangent, but I think that that's so important when you're talking to somebody who's looking to sell you a service.
No, that's a great point. And, that was the great thing about this program is I was able to 12 years ago get on TV. And then before I started helping other people, I had 8 years worth of data to work with, meaning that we tried different shows, we tried different stations, we tried different scripts. So when I started helping other people, I could say, these are the things that I did that worked well. These are the things that didn't work as well. So then we took the things that worked really well, started plugging them in, and then they started doing well for other people on top of that. And then when people started not getting good results, so we've had phenomenal results, but we'd have clients come to us and be like, "Man, TV's not, performing for us." So as a real estate investor, to your point, I would be able to, as a real estate investor, say, "Okay, here's how we run our sales team. Here's what we're seeing when leads come in. Show me your data." And then they would be like, either I don't have the data, or they would show me the data. And I'd be like, there's something wrong here. Because if you got 90 leads in your first 3 months and you only did one deal, that's typically not a lead problem. That is a sales problem. So we're able to actually dive into their business and say, okay, are you listening to your phone calls? We actually, we started getting really frustrated because when people said they weren't getting good results, we would ask them for their data and they wouldn't have it. They literally would not have it, even though we coached them on, make sure you have a tracking phone number and, you have it in your CRM and all that kind of stuff. So then we started buying the phone numbers for our clients for about a year to year and a half, just so we could get some data. And when someone would come to us and they would say, we're not having good results, we would listen to their phone calls and we'd realize that the ones that weren't getting good results weren't answering their phone. If they were answering their phones, typically their sales agent or whoever's answering the phone didn't sound professional, answered hello, they would not ask the right questions. I mean, there were so many disconnects, even some of the biggest real estate investors that if I said their name, you would probably know them. Even some of them that I'm like, they're going to absolutely crush it. And, they would sometimes have struggles. And then we'd listen to their phone calls and we're like, we know why you're not performing. So it's kind of interesting being on this side of it because, as just a real estate investor before I started helping other clients with their marketing, when people would say something didn't work, I would take it as truth. Someone would say postcards aren't working, or PPC's not working, or whatever's not working. I always take it with a grain of salt now because I feel like I've seen people make every single marketing medium work. And I can tell you now that we work with hundreds of people with their TV commercials and listen to hundreds or probably, maybe even thousands of calls at this point, we can tell that, those that are dialed into the sales process are the ones that are doing the best. So they're answering their phone. If they're not answering the phone, they're getting back to someone very quickly. There's actually a study that showed when someone calls a business, the amount of time that it takes for someone to get back to them substantially, as time goes on, substantially decreases the probability that they are going to do business with you. So if I called you, Brian, and said, hey, Brian, I want to do cost segregation, I leave you a message, you call me back in 5 minutes, compared to, let's say, 15 minutes, even from 5 to 15 minutes can be a dramatic difference between whether they do business with you or not.
I'd like to thank today's sponsor, CostSeg RX, a cost segregation company. If you're interested in a cost segregation study, log on to realestateexplainer.com and click the cost segregation link at the top of the page. So when it comes to TV, why do you think TV works so much better than, let's say, some of the other avenues or marketing avenues that are out there?
Yeah. So I mentioned some of the big benefits of TV, right? So there's those. Think about how competitive real estate investing is right now. When I got into the business 20 some years ago, flipping, in fact, when I started telling people that I was flipping properties, at that time, there was still that negative connotation that flipping was illegal. I don't know if you remember that when people would say flipping houses, that it was people thought it was no.
Now it's wholesaling.
Yeah, well, yeah. Wholesaling is a whole nother thing.
It is another thing.
But regardless, now, if you think about it, like if you look at your market and if you watch TV, you probably either have never seen anybody on TV in your market, or you've maybe seen 1, 2, maybe 3 people in your market doing TV. There is one market that's super competitive that I know there's like 8 to 10 people, but it's a huge market and there's just a lot of opportunity in it. But typically when I talk to a client or we talk to clients, they're like, I don't know anybody else doing it, or they might know 1 or 2 people. And it's interesting because someone might go, well, there's two other companies doing TV, and are you sure it's not sure, putting me on TV isn't, there's not gonna be too much competition. And if you think about it, most of those markets are anywhere from 500,000 to 1.5 million people. That's a typical DMA of where TV runs. And it's like, if you are one of three people running TV in a market of 500,000 people, even if it's 300,000 people, that's one person per 100,000 people that are doing TV. Whereas if you look at all the other marketing methods out there, you have dozens and dozens of people sending direct mail. You have dozens and dozens, maybe even hundreds of people that are texting and cold calling. So the chances of having too much competition with TV commercials is very slim. So when people are on lists, they're usually on mailing lists, they're on cold calling lists, they're on text message lists. But what about the great leads that aren't on lists? Where do they go? They usually go online, or they figure out how to find somebody to buy their house other than those methods. Well, what if you have hundreds of commercials that are pounding in the minds of many people that are in your demographic? And so, when we get someone on TV, we don't just get them like 20, 30, 40 commercials a month. We get them anywhere from like 500 to 1,000 commercials a month, which means their commercial is running anywhere from, I would say, 10 to 20 times a day on the low end, up to 30 to 40 times a day. So guess what? If you're constantly in the minds of people that are going to sell down the road and they're not on lists, guess who they're going to call? They're going to see your commercial at the right time, and they're going to call you. And guess what? They're going to call probably only you because you hit them at the right time. And if you answer the phone and you get out to that lead, they're less likely to call somebody else.
Now, the commercials that you're putting out there for real estate investors, what type of commercials are you airing?
Yeah, so they're 30-second commercials. We play with some 15-second commercials over time. We start with 30 seconds though. It's not a lot of time to get information in, but it also is enough time to get information in. What I mean by that is you do only have 30 seconds, so you have to be very precise. So you have to tell them you buy properties, you sell them as is. For us, we don't. Our tagline is we don't charge fees, commissions, and there's no hassle. You have to, people get concerned about, do I drive people to a phone number? Do I drive people to website? We know what works well, so we play on that. So basically, it's being able to portray to people what you do, what your benefits are, and what they need to do, basically a call to action. And you get all of that within 30 seconds. So when I say you get 500 to 1,000 commercials a month, those are 30-second commercials that play in between shows, and shows that we know that our demographic is watching.
Got it. And then, one of the things that I know people are probably thinking is, this can't be affordable. There's no way that it can be affordable to reach that many people, because if you were to send out 1,000 postcards to once a month, that's probably going to cost you, I don't know, let's call it $500 per month to send out 1,000 postcards with mailing and printing. Now you're talking about reaching, I think you said, what is it? A demographic of, what was it? 500,000 people?
Yeah, usually most markets are between, 500,000 people to about 1.5.
So compared to the other marketing or advertising methods, is it affordable to advertise on TV? Can your average real estate investor get started in TV marketing?
Yeah, you're asking some unbelievable questions. So I'll give you another stat. If you were to send out 1,000 postcards, it would be about $500, right? 50 cents a postcard. If you were to hit the same people with TV commercials, that cost you $5. They call that CPM. Okay. It's cost per thousand, right? So to hit 1,000 people to have 1,000 impressions is 100 times more expensive with postcards than it is for TV. And that's why that's another reason TV is so powerful. If we are 500 to 1,000 commercials a month, I probably should do the numbers on this, but you're hitting like hundreds and hundreds of thousands of impressions. And to be able to do hundreds of thousands of impressions with direct mail, you're spending, $50 to $100,000 a month, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's hitting a lot of people. It's hitting the right people and just getting in their minds, because people these days, they're like this. It's staggering the amount of marketing people get hit with these days. 20 years ago, when Facebook wasn't around, you still got hit with a lot of marketing. But now, as you're on Facebook and you're on other apps and you're on websites, there's just so much marketing that you just have to hit people so many more times these days than you used to have to.
And I think that's a big part of it too, because you're not replacing all of your marketing with, let's say, TV advertising. You're not saying don't send out postcards and don't go on the radio or don't do pay-per-click advertising. I think what you have to do is you really have to do all of them. So you have to do all of them and then figure out which one works the best for you, and then not take away the ones that aren't necessarily working the best. It's just keep them all there, because you want the folks that see you on Facebook to also maybe get a postcard or a mailer from you periodically, and then to also see you on TV. It's just so powerful when you start stacking the different, the different methods.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, TV is our number one lead source. We do radio commercials as well. We do direct mail. We do Facebook ads. We do pay-per-click on Google. We have a billboard. Yeah, you just need to be everywhere, right? I mean, you don't have to be everywhere to be a successful business, but if you really want to brand yourself and be like the authority in the market, typically you're going to have to do more than one channel. Now, I say that, and we actually do have some clients that are doing TV, and that's all they're doing, right? That's actually how I got in TV. I met a guy at a poker game, or I saw him at a poker game, and I noticed the guy was on TV, and I asked Chad. His name was Chad. He owned a construction business, and I had this whole celebrity factor in my head. That's why I started talking to him, like, "Oh, this is cool. I'm playing poker with this guy on TV." And I said, "Chad, how are TV commercials doing for you?" And he's like, and I expected him to say what most people probably think is, "Oh, it's just branding. We get leads other ways or whatever." But he was like, his eyes lit up, and he's like, "We don't do anything else besides TV, because it just absolutely crushes it." He's like, he told us his numbers. It was like, he's like, "I do millions of dollars." He told me the number. I can't remember. It was like millions of dollars of business every single month. And all he does is TV commercials. It's crazy.
And he can service those millions of dollars of customers. I think that's so important. And we circle back to that. It's make sure that if you are getting this influx of business, that you're able to pick up the phone and then you're able to provide the service that you're offering. So if you're a real estate investor and you're actively looking to acquire properties in the market that you're in, make sure that you can pull the trigger if you've got someone who's on the phone that really does want to sell their property. I just think that it's just such an awesome opportunity that you provide. Before we wrap up, because I just want to keep it under or right around 30 minutes, is what are some of the big success stories that you've seen? Some of the deals that have really changed people's careers.
Yeah. So, I'm in the biz 20 plus years. I invest, I live in San Diego now, but I invest in Wichita, Kansas. That's where I was born and raised, and my team is located. So for us, our spreads are really good. We typically make between $25,000 to $33,000 per deal, which is good for Wichita, Kansas, because our price points aren't super high. I mean, if we buy something and it sells for over 200,000, that's a pretty expensive property. So what I can say is, for us, the deals that we have done that are over $100,000, which, again, for Wichita, Kansas is pretty substantial. All of those deals have been from TV commercials. And it's kind of cool when we get clients on TV, because they tell us the same thing, that their spreads are higher from TV compared to other marketing methods. And I think a lot of it has to do with is they're the only one called typically. And even if they are, there's other competition. We've actually had a lot of people sell to us at a cheaper price, and they've done it because we're on TV and they know we're credible and that we're going to close. Whereas they kind of get, they get this vibe of other people that, like, I don't really know these people as well. I haven't seen them on TV or haven't seen as much of their marketing, things of that nature. The other thing that's really cool is we have a ton of people that will just post in our private Facebook group, "Man, I just did $100,000 wholesale deal." Like, there's actually this 23-year-old on the east side of the U.S., 23, he was in the military, newer investor, jumped on TV. His first 6 months, he did 2 $100,000 assignments.
Wow.
And the reason that he did really well with TV and that he was able to get those deals is because he was dialed into a sales process. I could tell from day one, he was one of those guys that he was a sales guy. He'd answer the phone. He was a hustler. But we have a ton of clients that are just doing massive wholesale deals. Think about it, $100,000 wholesale deal. That's almost unheard of. So yeah, I love seeing those stories. This isn't typically for a new investor. I would say a newer investor, it's probably okay. If you're just starting out in the game, it may not be right for you. Although we have had some investors that are new to the game that had a sales background or sold a business and had business background and things of that nature. But I just love being able to take TV and just help a business get to the next level, whether that's building their credibility, whether that's doubling their business. But it's just a game changer. When I got on TV 12 years ago, again, just the way people talk to you, and I go into Whole Foods and people would be like, "Tony, you're the guy on TV," and they just start conversations with you as if you know them. And it's sometimes it can be a little annoying, but it's kind of cool at the same time. But you're just building your brand, and the other great thing is you're just building your personal credibility. So if you want to, if you're dealing with other people, whether it's in your business or outside your business, people just treat you differently. So.
Perfect. And then if any of the listeners want to get in touch with you, if they want to get connected with you, what's the best way for them to reach you?
Yeah, so we have this map of the U.S. that we can go into, and we can look at a demographic. So let's say someone's in Macon, Georgia, or Nashville, Tennessee. We can go in there and we can look at the map and say, okay, you're going to be able to hit 500,000 people, about 1.5 million people with your TV commercial. Here's what the ad spend is going to be, and kind of walk you through the whole process. So if someone wants us to do that with them, we'd be more than happy to do that. We can, if you guys go to remtv.com, that stands for Real Estate Masters, remtv.com. You can go on there, fill out a form, book a call, and we can walk you through the process and see how we can help you amplify your marketing and take it to the next level.
Well, hey, Tony, thank you for jumping on the podcast today. And I'm sure we will talk very soon. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks, Brian. Thanks for having me.
If you'd like to get connected with today's guest, log on to realestateexplainer.com and click the Get Connected button on the homepage.